Roddy McDowall, the child star, appeared to be the epitome of the Hollywood gentleman. He made friends with all of the big stars, collected movies, and shot stunning pictures. However, the FBI sent trucks and agents to raid his home on December 18, 1974. They confiscated more than 1,000 recordings and videos valued about $5 million. What did they discover? It was more than just films. It was proof of something far more significant. At the end of the day, Roddy had saved himself by betraying his closest pals. Elizabeth Taylor, Rock Hudson, and others were unaware of what had happened to them. On September 17, 1928, Roddy McDowall was born in London's Herne Hill. Roderick Andrew Anthony Jude McDowall was his full name. The stage influenced his life from the beginning. Thomas, his father, was a merchant seaman. Winifred, his mother, had long aspired to be an actress but was never successful. So she placed her hopes into Roddy instead. Roddy had already won a poetry competition by the time he was 4 years old. He began taking elocution lessons at age 5. His mother was determined to bring forth the best in him. He starred in his first movie, Murder in the Family, when he was 10 years old. He had acted in 16 movies before he ever left Britain. During his 4 years at Hanover Academy, he and his sister, Virginia, won almost every drama prize. Virginia also pursued acting. Then came the war. When Roddy was 12 years old in 1940, German bombers were flying over Britain. His family escaped to America as part of Operation Pied Piper, a huge evacuation effort that relocated 1.5 million people. However, they only had $42 when they arrived in the U.S. due to wartime money regulations. His mother had to support them because his father had enlisted in the military. In the hopes that someone would notice Roddy, she took him to talent agencies all across New York. Hollywood noticed anything unique at that point. A new young star was what Fox Studios had been looking for. And Roddy stood out due to his flawless British accent and his true narrative of fleeing the war. Hollywood received his screen test directly. When director William Wyler saw it, he realized right once that Roddy had something special. He portrayed a youngster assisting someone in escaping the Nazis in Manhunt, his debut American picture, released in 1941. It was familiar. Fox starred him in How Green Was My Valley that same year. Even though he was just 13, his performance helped the film win Best Picture at the 1942 Oscars, defeating Citizen Kane. For the film, the company invested $110,000 in creating an 80-acre recreation of a Welsh mining community. Real coal blocks were imported from Wales for the 6-month construction process. Roddy was hailed by critics as a promising young performer who may compete with Shirley Temple. He signed a 7-year deal. Roddy earned $2.4 million in rentals for his role in My Friend Flicka in 1943. He portrayed Ken, a youngster who develops a bond with a wild horse. He had to work with real animals, including one that was unintentionally killed while filming, and learn how to ride a horse. Because of the film's enormous popularity, Fox produced a sequel in 1945. He was adored by audiences worldwide. He portrayed Gregory Peck's young priest character in The Keys of the Kingdom in 1944, taking on a more significant role. He had to act out intensely emotional scenarios, such as losing his parents in a storm, and speak with a Scottish accent. He was handling roles with significant complexity by the age of 16. In 1945, Molly and I followed. Roddy portrayed a grumpy teenager who thought his father detested him because he resembled his deceased mother. It had elements of drama and comedy. In one scenario, he had to cry, while in another, he had to make amusing impressions. The audiences adored it. The fan mail came flooding in. Like many others during the war, he was perceived by the public as a real boy going through real hardships. However, things weren't simple behind the scenes. In 1944, he was mistakenly thought to have won a Juvenile Academy Prize. However, Margaret O'Brien received that. Nevertheless, Roddy was now his family's primary provider. He was making $2,500 a week at the age of 16, which is equivalent to hundreds of thousands of dollars today. He had little time for friends or a typical adolescent life because he worked 6 days a week. His mother kept everything while many kid stars lost their money. However, the strain caused him to feel nervous and homesick. People questioned if he would be able to shed his kid star persona as he got older. The Broadway production of Compulsion, which played from October 1957 to February 1958, was the catalyst for that transformation. It was based on the real-life murder of 14-year-old Bobby Franks in 1924. Arthur Strauss was portrayed by Roddy as a ruthless and cunning young man. Although his co-star Dean Stockwell remained, Bradford Dillman took his place when the film was shot in 1959. Nathan Leopold, the real-life murderer, even attempted, but was unsuccessful, to stop the film's production. Nevertheless, Roddy's onstage performance was a watershed. He portrayed a more sinister character in the thriller Midnight Lace in 1960. Malcolm Stanley, his character, was eerie and suspicious. The total reverse of the good-natured boy he formerly played with. Doris Day, a Golden Globe nominee, appeared in the film, which had a $3 million budget. Every moment had more intensity because of Roddy, and viewers got to see a different side of him. In the same year, Roddy played King Arthur's illegitimate son, Mordred, in the original Broadway production of Camelot. Before being replaced, he played the part for 284 times. There were 873 performances of the show overall. The Seven Deadly Virtues, one of his songs, became a favorite among fans. The production proved a hit despite backstage issues. His performance demonstrated his genuine theatrical talent and won him a Tony nomination. Then came Cleopatra's Turmoil in 1963. Roddy was the role of Octavius. At $44 million, or more than $450 million now, it became the most costly movie ever produced at the time. Fox had to sell up the land that would eventually become Century City after coming dangerously close to bankruptcy. Roddy had a close-up look at the scandal involving Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton. $5 million had already been squandered, and Taylor almost died of pneumonia while filming. Prior to the transfer of production to Rome, the cost of her costumes alone was $94,000. The movie was the top-grossing film of that year, earning $57.7 million despite all the catastrophe. Roddy maintained his professionalism throughout. In 1965, he portrayed Matthew the Apostle in the massive biblical film The Greatest Story Ever Told, which took over 3 years to complete. It featured more than 100 speaking parts and cost $20 million. Rather than the Middle East, they shot in the American Southwest. Sidney Poitier, Charlton Heston, and Max von Sydow were among the film's stars. Despite only making $15.5 million and losing money, Roddy's performance demonstrated his progress. He demonstrated emotional and spiritual depth by portraying Matthew as a reflective, inquisitive guy. Few performers will ever experience what Roddy McDowall did. In order to transform into Cornelius, the kind chimpanzee archaeologist in Planet of the Apes, he had to get up at 2 every morning and spend 3.5 hours in a makeup chair. When they originally tried the cosmetics, it could take up to 7 hours to apply and 3 hours to take off. In order to allow his skin to breathe, the studio had to develop new kinds of foam rubber because it was so hot. It was more than just a mask of cosmetics. It arrived in fragments, with distinct ears, a distinct chin, and several hair layers. He had to paint his lower teeth black as well. 4 months, he worked at this 5 days a week, and it paid off. The film, which cost $5.8 million to make, was released in 1968. It got very popular. His most well-known role was that of Cornelius. He gained notoriety for his diligent work ethic. Roddy didn't stop there either. He continued to record behind the scenes with his 8mm camera while others went home. He kept a record of the entire makeup procedure. He recorded the actors smiling, flying to the beach in a helicopter, and drinking through straws while sporting complete orangutan facial expressions. He even endured that lengthy makeup process in 1974 in order to make a brief appearance on The Carol Burnett Show and present his short documentary to the public. Roddy was the only one who had the idea to save those moments. Unbeknownst to him, he was recording history. He made a comeback in 1971 for the May 26 release of Escape from the Planet of the Apes. His personality changed this time. Although the plot was set in Los Angeles in the 1970s, he continued to portray Cornelius. The film looked at persecution and time travel. Action was no longer the only thing at stake. It had to do with feeling. Roddy was responsible for that shift. Because of his outstanding performance, the movie was the most acclaimed follow-up to the original series. Its emphasis on individuals rather than merely fireworks won it praise from critics. Roddy was responsible for that. Roddy returned in 1974 when the television adaptation of Planet of the Apes began, this time as Galen, a new character. Despite only having 14 episodes, Roddy's participation provided the show dimension. He provided guidance for the writing. He even helped the team work more quickly by using his understanding of the drawn-out makeup procedure. In interviews and documentaries, he continued to uphold the franchise's reputation despite the series' abrupt conclusion. Roddy was more than just a performer. He was a very skilled photographer as well. He published his daring photography book Double Exposure in 1966. It contained 98 celebrities and was 251 pages long. But each celebrity was described by another well-known individual rather than by journalists. James Baldwin characterized Marlon Brando. Katharine Hepburn profiled Lauren Bacall. No one had ever done that before. Roddy became one of Hollywood's most trusted photographers as a result of the book's phenomenal sales. Since 1953, he has been contributing to magazines such as Vogue and Life. Everyone wanted a picture with him now. He then released Double Exposure, Take 2 in 1989. It was darker this time. The part that shocked me the most was when Judy Garland was at her worst. She had been friends with Roddy when the Judy Garland show was being filmed in 1963. When no one else could, he took pictures of her when she was crying, ill, and exhausted during breakdowns. These pictures were accompanied in the book by candid statements from people who witnessed how the studio ruined her. She had been pushed so hard by MGM that she had lost her health by the time she aged 40. The medications? It was all in those pictures, the alcohol. Roddy had witnessed it all firsthand. Roddy recorded a private beach party at his Malibu house one summer in 1965. It was no ordinary celebration. Burgers were being flipped by Paul Newman. Without a top, Lauren Bacall was lounging in the sun. Jane Fonda, Natalie Wood, Anthony Perkins, and Rock Hudson were present. Everyone calmed down. They drank and smoked. And, for once, acted like regular folks. Natalie Wood flirted with a number of men while her husband was away. Roddy never made the video public. He was aware that it would destroy careers. However, those 16mm reels captured Hollywood in a way that had never been seen before: private, honest, and unvarnished. Following his departure from a dinner party at Elizabeth Taylor's home in 1956, Montgomery Clift was involved in a horrific car accident. He nearly died after colliding with a telephone pole. His cheekbones, nose, and jaw were all fractured. His face was never the same after undergoing extensive surgery. Only a few weeks after the tragedy, Roddy, who had become a close friend, began to take pictures of him. The pictures showed him rehearsing facial expressions in front of mirrors while attempting to smile once more. When Clift was alive, he never published them. He wished to keep his pal safe. However, those pictures subtly revealed the harsh price of celebrity and the strain to maintain perfection. Roddy published Double Exposure, Take 4 in 1993. His 50-year connection with Elizabeth Taylor was made public in this book. She talked candidly about everything, including her marriages, weight issues, and addictions. "Don't just love someone, I possess them," she stated. She characterized Richard Burton as such. The pictures were devastating. One depicted her without makeup, while another showed her in tears following a divorce. As a testament to their profound trust, the book even featured a photo she had shot of Roddy. Their friendship, which lasted until his passing, began when they were young performers in 1943. Every day, Roddy called Elizabeth to see how she was doing. She felt protected with him. Even her old private recordings, which are currently included on HBO's Elizabeth, The Lost Tapes, had his voice in the background. In 1998, Elizabeth flew back to Los Angeles to visit him daily till the end of his cancerous life. She hosted a private memorial service at her house following his passing. In 1957, a fictitious controversy from Confidential magazine nearly destroyed Maureen O'Hara. Roddy supported her despite their accusations that she had committed ignominious acts at a theater's rear. He has known her since they co-starred in the movie How Green Was My Valley in 1941. Throughout the court proceedings, he took pictures of her and remained by her side as her brother demonstrated that she hadn't even been in the nation. The case marked a sea change. It contributed to the demise of the publication that had harmed so many defenseless celebrities. Closeted actors like Rock Hudson and Tab Hunter were able to finally be themselves at Roddy's private Malibu parties. They felt secure, laughed, and exchanged secrets. Roddy captured some of it on camera, not to stir any controversy but to document their true selves, free from the masks and deception Hollywood had them wear. After that, Judy Garland made a reappearance in A Star Is Born. For 1954, the budget was a staggering $5 million. However, 27 minutes were edited by the studio without the director's permission. Garland's career was permanently harmed by the choice, which also destroyed her prospects of winning an Oscar. Roddy witnessed everything. He took pictures of her arguments, her breakdowns, and her suffering. That movie is regarded as a masterpiece today. It almost broke her back then. Roddy got it. Because the truth was always in his line of sight. Roddy McDowall was not merely an actor in Hollywood. He had subtly created his own private film archive by the early 1970s, something that even big companies lacked. He had 337 distinct pictures by 1974. The core of his collection consisted of 160 of those, which were uncommon 16mm prints. In his garage in North Hollywood, he kept films like Citizen Kane, Lassie Come Home, and My Pal Flicka. Many of these were purchased directly from the film studios, who were getting rid of their old reels to make room. Roddy even purchased all of Errol Flynn's personal belongings, including home videos and unfinished films, from Flynn's widow. Transferring them to Sony U-matic magnetic tape cost him thousands of dollars. Which, because he thought tape would live longer than film, came before VHS and Betamax. Roddy didn't gather for financial gain. Only the amount he recalled paying was charged to his buddies. He once claimed to have paid precisely $705 for 3 movies. He used his garage for more than just storing things. It turned into a miniature museum of lost movies. However, on December 18, 1974, everything changed. The FBI arrived that day with trucks and agents. They confiscated more than 1,000 videotapes and 160 film reels during their raid on Roddy's home. The total value of the collection, according to the government, was $5,500, $426. It was the FBI's largest ever raid on movie piracy. Prints of his own films, such as Tam Lin, Lassie Come Home, and Planet of the Apes, were confiscated by the FBI. The recordings were labeled, packed, and preserved as if they were priceless. Behind the scenes, however, Roddy wasn't merely gathering, the government was constructing a case. He was illegally sharing and copying movies. Roddy was aware of the perilous circumstances. He decided to assist rather than fight. He provided names to the FBI. He informed them that he had received a print of the James Dean movie Giant from Rock Hudson. Along with Dick Martin and Mel Torme, he also mentioned Arthur P. Jacobs from the Planet of the Apes television series. Official paperwork blurred out other names. People were taken aback. According to a fellow collector, Roddy was devastated to lose his movies, but what was even more painful was having to betray his friends. Even renowned journalist Robert Osborne, who was close to Roddy, admitted years later that he was unaware that Roddy had complied. Rock Hudson never brought it up, if he ever found out. This was made even more terrible by the beginning of it all. In the 1960s, Roddy started collecting as a guardian rather than a pirate. Old movies that the studios deemed useless were being discarded. Roddy felt that these movies had to be preserved. He had no intention of making money. He claimed that having copies aided his acting studies. To enhance his work, he even preserved a print of his death scene following his escape from the world of the apes. However, the law was unconcerned. He violated copyright laws by selling or sharing tapes with other collectors, even at cost. Later, his attorney clarified that Roddy was not the owner of several of the Prince rights. Studios such as 20th Century Fox continued to do so. The case was withdrawn by the government by June 1975. Roddy received no charges. No jail time, no trial. However, the harm had already been done. He no longer threw movie evenings. A few pals never returned. Although he was exonerated, the raid will always be associated with his name. By assisting with the legal preservation of films, he attempted to move on. He became a member of the Academy's board and eventually contributed to the establishment of the National Film Preservation Board. He even worked on repairing Cleopatra from 1963 in the 1990s. What started out as a private passion became a public caution. Saving something and stealing it are two different things. Most people were unaware of another aspect of Roddy's existence. He first met Montgomery Clift in 1951 thanks to Elizabeth Taylor. The two men developed a strong romantic bond. To be near him, Roddy even relocated to New York. Roddy virtually ceased performing for 2.5 years. Montgomery was his only concern. However, the partnership ended. Roddy was upset when Cliff made an attempt to terminate things. He made an attempt at suicide. Amazingly, he never harbored resentment toward Cliff despite his survival. He remained by his side all the way through. Later on, they co-starred in Cliff's final film, The Defector. Cliff once claimed that without Roddy's help, he could never have completed it. Being openly gay in Hollywood at the time Roddy lived could have destroyed your career. Stars were being exposed by gossip magazines such as Confidential in the 1950s. Rock Hudson almost got caught. Henry Wilson, an agent who handled a lot of gay performers, exposed some of his clients in order to protect others. He even scared off blackmailers with off-duty police. Although Roddy remained silent in public, he established a secure environment behind closed doors. His house turned into a haven where celebrities, gay and heterosexual, could unwind fearlessly. He was referred to as Hollywood's father confessor since he protected people's secrets. He kept all of his knowledge to himself. Roddy purchased a Malibu Beach property in 1965. He captured celebrities attending secret parties without makeup or protection. In addition to celebrities like Paul Newman, Lauren Bacall, and Jane Fonda simply relaxing in the sun, there is video of Julie Andrews strolling along the shore with her kid. These were not scenes from a movie. They were genuine trusting moments. He also worked with Tab Hunter on picture assignments. Another reclusive actor grilling hot dogs while posing as boyfriends while only sporting short shorts. It was risky yet fun. Both careers might have ended if the studios had seen those pictures. Throughout his life, Roddy only directed one film. It was based on a spooky ancient Scottish ballad and was called Tam Lin. With Ava Gardner at the forefront, he succeeded in 1967. It included bizarre hallucinogenic sequences that brilliantly encapsulated the 1960s. However, the film's production firm filed for bankruptcy before the movie could be released. It spent 3 years on a shelf. It had been altered and disassembled by the time of its eventual publication in 1970. They even called it other titles, such as Toys and Games and The Devil's Widow. The film was a failure. Roddy never again directed. Critics were eventually able to see what Roddy had attempted to produce in 1998 when Martin Scorsese assisted in restoring the original cut. They referred to it as a lost diamond. However, it was already too late. In 1985, Roddy played one of his most significant parts. In Fright Night, he portrayed Peter Vincent, a TV vampire hunter whose program is cancelled since no one is interested in watching vampire killers these days. Roddy's life was nearly reflected in the character. He was feeling washed up after being sacked from a true horror show. He eventually encounters actual vampires in the film. The movie became a cult favorite and earned $24.9 million. For a while, it felt like a comeback since young horror enthusiasts adored him. Ironically, he was too busy directing Tam Lin to make an appearance in Beneath the Planet of the Apes. It was the only ape movie in which he didn't feature. Roddy left behind something remarkable when he passed away on October 3, 1998. For decades, he had preserved home films, letters, and personal diaries. In his will, he said that no one could open them until 2098, which was 100 years after his passing. However, he did give them to Boston University. Everyone was taken aback. The contents must be explosive, according to legal experts. Protecting the living is the sole justification for sealing something for so long. Some people think the diaries reveal relationships, names, and secrets that the public was never supposed to know. According to reports, the archive has proof of Elizabeth Taylor's violent union with Eddie Fisher, which Roddy recorded in his journals. Letters regarding Rock Hudson's AIDS diagnosis and how the industry concealed it might potentially be included. Roddy knew the truth long before the general public did, having been close to Hudson for years before his death in 1985. Additionally, he had recordings of intimate moments with celebrities like Paul Newman, Natalie Wood, and Anthony Perkins, as well as home videos of Judy Garland at private parties amid drug overdoses. People close to Roddy think there is one diary entry. A page detailing his suicide attempt following his separation from Montgomery Clift. That entry and hundreds more like it are kept in a locked archive that is off limits to the public. Not quite yet. However, the world won't know until 2098. Roddy McDowall will always be one of the most intriguing, enigmatic, and devoted characters in Hollywood history.